Buenos dias from Laos Point. This is the Rorschach Argentina update from the 20th of August, 2026. A quick summary of what's going down in Argentina. Let's start with some shocking news making headlines this week. Bolivian police arrested Fernando Cerimodo, a political strategist who previously advised President Milei and current Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz. Prosecutors in Bolivia charged Cerimodo with attempted femicide after gunmen shot Nadia Belair, his former partner, 3 times outside a hotel in Bolivia on Monday the 17th. Belair, who survived the attack and remains under intensive medical care, publicly accused Cerimodo of arranging the shooting to silence her regarding alleged corruption schemes. Cerimodo refused to testify during his initial court hearing. In a follow-up to a story we covered in a previous update regarding economic indicators, the INDEC Statistics Agency reported that monthly inflation rose to 2.1% in July, breaking a 3-month streak of slowing price increases. The 12-month inflation rate now stands at almost 34%. Winter vacation spending drove much of the increase, with recreation, culture, hotels, and restaurants leading the price hikes. While Luis Caputo, the economy minister, downplayed the rise as seasonal, consumer spending continues to suffer under high utility costs and stagnant earnings. Meanwhile, surging formal job losses present a major political challenge. Official data shows that Argentina has lost over 240,000 private sector payroll jobs since Milei took office, marking 13 consecutive months of decline in registered employment. While informal employment has expanded, high-skilled and industrial sectors continue to cut positions or freeze hiring due to falling domestic demands and rising dollar-denominated costs. The Neuquén province in the northern Patagonian region remains the only province to add new businesses over the past 2 years, buoyed by its energy sector. In response to stagnant economy activity, the Economy Ministry announced new regulations allowing companies without dollar revenues to access dollar-denominated loans. While financial analysts expect the measure to generate credit worth over 1% of gross domestic product, some warn that potential exchange rate volatility ahead of future elections could make companies cautious about taking on foreign currency debt. Speaking of the elections, Argentine political parties have begun defining their strategic alliances ahead of the 2027 elections. Strategic negotiations resumed between President Milei's party, La Libertad Avanza, and former President Mauricio Macri's Pro Party, leading to the creation of a joint political committee. Meanwhile, opposition leaders within Peronism, including Axel Kicillof, Máximo Kirchner, and Sergio Massa, agreed on a political truce to block government plans to eliminate open primary elections in Buenos Aires province. To put these local political maneuvers into a broader regional context, an opinion piece titled "The New Right Redraws Latin America's Map" explores how figures like Javier Milei and Argentina and newly elected leaders across Colombia, Peru, and El Salvador tap into public resentment over crime, economic stagnation, and social changes to consolidate power. Writing for Perfil in Spanish, but translated to English by the Buenos Aires Times, Antonella Marty reflects on the shift away from traditional political parties and examines how these movements align closely with conservative political networks across the Americas. To read the full piece, check out the link in the show notes. Turning to regional transport, low-cost airline Flybondi has plunged deeper into an operational breakdown after its official website crashed on Tuesday the 18th. The airline carried less than 14,000 passengers in July, marking a 95% drop compared to the same month last year, after canceling over 80% of its scheduled flights this month. Around 700 laid-off employees recently staged protests at Aeroparque Airport in Buenos Aires City over unpaid severance packages, while city courts ordered the seizure of Flybondi's bank accounts over unpaid tax debts exceeding 1.4 billion pesos, or around $9 million US dollars. On the energy front, Peter Thiel, the U.S. billionaire entrepreneur, made his first major foray into Argentina's oil sector by purchasing a $76 million stake in Vista Energy, the country's top oil exporter. Thiel's growing presence in Argentina has drawn public pushback, including a lighthearted protest outside his residence in Buenos Aires City on Monday the 17th, where demonstrators dressed as the wizard Gandalf gathered to criticize his surveillance tech company, Palantir. Beyond private tech investments, state monitoring has also drawn heavy criticism as human rights organization Amnesty International published a critical report on Tuesday the 18th, warning against the rapid expansion of state surveillance in Argentina. The report details how the security ministry spent over $1.2 million acquiring mass surveillance tech to monitor social media, track political protesters during demonstrations, and build biometric databases. Returning to oil, YPF, the state energy firm, formally submitted its flagship Argentina LNG project to the government's large investment incentive regime, known as RISI, partnering with Italian energy company Eni and Abu Dhabi's XRG. YPF plans to invest $50 billion US dollars to develop gas liquefaction facilities and floating export units off the coast of Rio Negro province, located in northern Patagonia in southern Argentina. The company called the application a milestone that guarantees long-term tax and regulatory stability, projecting annual export revenues of nearly $10 billion once the operations begin in 2031. Moving to judicial matters, the Supreme Court of Justice issued a landmark ruling limiting the executive branch's power to govern by necessity and emergency decrees, known as DNUs. In the unanimous decision regarding a 2019 decree issued by former President Mauricio Macri, the three justices ruled that presidents cannot alter court decisions. In a unanimous decision regarding a 2019 decree issued by former President Mauricio Macri, the three justices ruled that presidents cannot alter court jurisdictions or legislative matters without proving genuine emergency conditions that prevent Congress from meeting. In foreign policy news, the government quietly signed Argentina onto the Geneva Consensus Declaration, an international anti-choice coalition promoted by the United States. While the agreement carries no binding legal obligations, critics view it as a cultural statement aimed at opposing reproductive rights in international forums, sparking debate over whether the administration plans to target Argentina's current abortion laws. Switching to regional developments, a massive overnight fire at an electrical power station in Tolosa, a district of La Plata, the capital of Buenos Aires province, left much of the area without electricity on Monday the 17th. The blaze caused an electricity transformer to explode around 3 a.m, knocking out power. 4 firefighting units contained the blaze without any reported injuries. High up in the Andes, the Cristo Redentor International Crossing in the Mendoza province, located in western Argentina, has remained closed for a full month due to severe snowstorms and extreme winds, linking the province to the Valparaiso region in neighboring Chile. Snow accumulations exceeding 4 meters have trapped over 1,500 international cargo trucks on the Argentine side of the border, generating daily losses of nearly $600 per vehicle. Highway authorities stated that clearing crews have reached the tunnel entrance, but dangerous avalanche conditions and low visibility prevent safe reopening. Further north along the mountains, authorities in the western San Juan province restricted public access to the Pampa del Leoncito clay plain after a driver drove a pickup truck across the saturated ground and became stuck in the mud. The incident occurred on Saturday the 15th, leaving tire ruts up to 25 centimeters deep across the protected white clay landscape at the foot of the Andes. Local officials expressed outrage, noting that the deep tracks could take decades to disappear naturally, and announced plans to pursue higher fines to protect the historic site. To close this edition with news from the literary world, United States publisher Deep Vellum announced that it will publish the first ever English translation of Los Sorios, the monumental 1,300-page cult novel by late Argentine author Alberto Laiseka. Written over a decade while Laiseka worked as a janitor, the satiric masterpiece depicts a fictional world war between three authoritarian superpowers, using a style the author described as delirious realism. Publication is scheduled for 2029. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Anything to ask or tell us, email us at info@rorschach.com. If you want to be a peach, check out our t-shirts at rorschach.store. Nos vemos la próxima semana.